Ladies and gentlemen, it's time we talk about something a little bit different right now, and that is thunderstorms. There is the potential for a few thunderstorms to occur across the Great Lakes region come Thursday evening into Friday. Severe weather, probably chances are going to be pretty low, and it's probably not going to happen, but there is some things hinting towards that. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the ingredients that we do need for this to materialize into some decent thunderstorms, as well as the pattern change that is coming for mid-February that could bring back snow into our forecast. 12:12 p.m. and it is February 7th. Welcome again to another update of Great Lakes weather. Hope everybody's doing well. This is the sunrise I captured this morning. Absolutely beautiful. You can see the red starting to appear on the clouds there, and this is associated with that upcoming system that I mentioned in the introduction that could bring a few thunderstorms to the Great Lakes region. I know it's been a while since we talked about that, particularly the Upper Peninsula, and I think Wisconsin will see thunderstorms. Southern Michigan is still in question. And I'm going to show on the models why that is the case. There is a lot of model disagreement on thunderstorm materialization across lower Michigan. There's good agreement about rain and maybe a few thunderstorms across Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula. And I know we're not really talking about severe weather at this point, but seeing thunderstorms in the beginning of February, not too common. So it's something we're going to kind of break down just a little bit in this video. So let's do it. Let's dive right in. This is the Storm Prediction Center. Okay, you can access this website yourself. All of this information is publicly available. I want to point out this green area that is pointed out for tomorrow. So, okay, so this is tomorrow, February 8th. All right, you can see that it's covering pretty much all of the Upper Peninsula at this point, and it's also covering the brunt of Wisconsin. This area could see a few thunderstorms, and I think there is a very slim chance of some severe weather across southern, central, and also central Wisconsin. I really think it's not going to be too impactful. Again, we're going to have some pretty cool temperatures, and I think it's going to be a struggle for moisture to make its way up into this area. So there is the chance, though, that with the amount of lift that's going to be present, there could be some thunderstorms developing in this area. And we're going to show you that. If you go to the day 3 outlook, which would be for Friday, you can see that they don't really add any thunderstorm hazard zones in the Great Lakes region. It's really focused down places far to the south. And I think that's probably going to stay accurate. And I mean, the SPC is really thinking that there's not really going to be too much development here. And the models have started to deplete that potential over the past couple of days for stronger thunderstorms in the Great Lakes region on Friday. So I think Thursday is the day to watch, Thursday evening. We're going to be watching for a few potential thunderstorms. I'm going to show you the models with that. Again, I'm not making any forecasts at this point. I'm just showing you what the model data is showing. And it might give some perspective as to what could potentially happen. But we're going to dive right into it with the HRRR first of all to show the precip type with this. So again, that low pressure system, the one thing about this low pressure system is that it is going to pack a lot of wind. Okay, it is a deepening low pressure system that's going to be making its way. You can see the tightening of the isobars at this point. That is going to create some wind gusts, some pretty gusty winds, especially at the surface. You could see some wind gusts of around 35 miles per hour, maybe 40 miles per hour in some places, and sustained winds around 20. So that's going to be something to watch out for with this system as it makes its way through. So there is going to be a lot of a nice push of wind here. One thing to watch out for is this first wave. Okay, the first wave is going to be making its way through. You get a sounding ahead of these, and you're really going to see, if you go to the Upper Peninsula, first of all, one of the places in those hazard zones, there is nothing favoring severe weather for this initial setup other than storm relative felicity, which again does not really mean too much if you don't have really any other ingredients in place. Lapse rates aren't even steep, no instability, nothing really in place for severe weather with the initial first wave making its way through. The thing to watch out for is the second wave that's going to be coming along behind that. So you look here and you can see that there's going to be development of some thunderstorms across western Wisconsin. Now, I don't usually forecast for Wisconsin, but with this, I figure probably going to be something to take note of and look out for. So you can do, with a sounding here, you can see that there is marginal severe potential with this. Cloud bases are getting a little bit lower. There might be a very minimal threat for damaging winds and some hail. I don't really see good tornado potential, except there is a lot of surface cape, 3 cape associated with this. So if there is there might be a potential for maybe a brief spin up, but I think that's going to be, the chance is going to be very low based on the low amounts of CAPE, the lower temperatures, I really think it's not going to be too big of a situation. So instability, again, these storms will likely be more elevated too. I mean, the HRRR is kind of putting out that they'll be a little bit lower of a cloud base. I think they'll be more elevated. Again, there is that chance that the temperatures just above the surface are going to be a little bit warmer than they are at the surface, which will heighten the cloud bases or raise the cloud bases a little bit higher. You do have that hodograph that has that curvature that favors stronger storms, so that is another thing to point out with this setup. And you can see that this line is really kind of rugged, not really well defined. So again, this chance for severe weather across Wisconsin is conditional, very conditional. I would say consider it lucky if you get a severe thunderstorm. Not lucky, but consider yourself just, I guess, in that perfect location if you do see a severe thunderstorm. But you do see that there is likely going to be some thunderstorms with this, probably not going to be severe, but progressing them off to the northeast, you can see that it continues into the Upper Peninsula, making its way, and you get a sounding in the Upper Peninsula by evening. And again, as temperatures drop down to colder levels, lose that instability with the lack of sunshine, not really gonna, though they'll start to break apart and start to dissipate. So you go farther to the south around this time, you see that there's an open area ahead of this first initial wave. You get a sounding across southern Michigan, and it still does show marginal severe potential. You do have some instability still present, elevated thunderstorm potential. You can see the cloud bases are pretty raised up here according to this sounding. So, and you do notice though that the winds here are rather strong, closer to the surface. Okay, so you do have some strong directional and speed shear associated with any developing storm. But again, you do see that there really isn't anything developing out here, and I think that's because the main wave is going to be focused off farther to the west as that colder, drier air makes a push into the Midwest towards the Great Lakes region. So chance for thunderstorms in lower Michigan is low, but there are a couple ingredients hinted at according to the HRRR. So that's just kind of a thing I'm watching with a little bit as we go through this. You can watch the instability values kind of increase as that system makes its way off to the east. You do see CAPE values of around 1,000 or 1,300 across Illinois, Wisconsin. Again, despite the fact that instability is going to be there, I'm not sure of how decent of a setup it's going to be, especially with this warming out just above the surface as well. So something to watch out for. Watch for that potential for some stronger storms, maybe across southern Wisconsin, maybe central Wisconsin as well. And there's still disagreement, okay, on the position of the thunderstorms and development. Again, the more ideal conditions are focused farther to the south, and with the thunderstorms actually developing much farther to the north. So again, also point out that the dew points are lower than the air temperatures as well. So you can see that there's a bit of spread there. So it's not as saturated as you'd hope it'd be for a setup of this kind. So that's another thing that's kind of playing against this scenario as well. Looking at the NAM also following a similar system, but does not really depict it as being significant either. So you can see across western Wisconsin, again, development time around 1 p.m. Get a sounding there across western Wisconsin. Again, look at this. It shows temperatures much colder. It does show saturated air, but it shows much colder temperatures. Not any instability present. There is still directional speed shear, but you can see that this sounding is all over the place. So if it amounts to anything, that would be quite surprising. But still also all over the place with the NAM 3K. So lots of spread in the models, so it's really hard to make a judgment as to what precisely will occur, if anything will occur. Needless to say, the guarantees, though, with this setup are definitely going to be at least some rain across Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula, maybe a rumble of thunder here and there, and then the possibility of some scattered sprinkles and some light rain showers across Michigan as it moves through the overnight hours. The NAM is hinting at some convective development across western Michigan, but again, also taking a note at the amount of moisture content at the surface. Not really too much, and it's very variable. The differences and changes between the amount of I guess the amount the air is saturated is pretty variable as you go up in the different parts of the atmosphere, which really makes this a difficult scenario for convective development at this point. But just something worth watching as models get close to the event within the next 24 hours. We'll see if they decide to agree on one scenario or not. But again, lots of questions still up to this point. So something to look out for in the longer run, though. As we get farther out into the weekend, there is some systems that we're watching as we approach a pattern change, which will be lifting its way or making its way down into our area. Likely going to bring colder air. Temperatures going to be in the 30s, mid-30s, upper 30s, back down to around normal for this time of the year, which will bring the potential for some snow in some spots. Now you can see that there is a low pressure system being shown by the GFS coming across Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio Saturday morning. And some places on the northwestern side could see snow. And these places farther to the south in Ohio, we're watching for maybe a few, again, rumbles of thunder as that low pressure system makes its way through. Not really a strong low, but something worth bearing watch over as it progresses. You can see that gradually there is a cooler air mass slowly making its way farther to the south. And as that happens, you're going to see those low pressure systems following on between that ridge and that trough that's kind of making its way through. And that's going to bring us a few chances for snow. Snow returns once again potentially on Monday. Again, we're getting out into a longer range scenario, so the low pressure system that is being shown here might shift up and down over the next couple of days. But apparently the target area for snow potentially over the next week seems to be northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and then also even getting into western Ohio, places that haven't seen much snow this year in southern Indiana, southern Ohio, but getting back to potentially a snowier pattern as we get farther out. And then as we get into the long range, we're not really going to go too far because still a lot of stuff to be determined there. So this stuff to stay tuned and stay watching out for. The 8 to 14 day temperature outlook also depicts that below normal temperature potential for areas in the southeast, and then places in Michigan and the Upper Peninsula are going to be near normal as that cooler air mass makes its way from the northwest into our region. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. That's basically the latest on the atmosphere and what's going on there. Make sure to subscribe and stay updated. There is a small chance that I'll be out storm chasing tomorrow. I'm not really going to put out too much for that because I really don't think it's going to amount to much, but stay tuned for that. We'll keep track and keep tabs on that setup, and then the setup for some snow across the central Great Lakes region later on into the early next week. So thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you all later.